You ready to take that? Take that. Take that. The diddler wins.
The diddler wins.
Hey, you know what? Bad boys win again. Being found not guilty on these charges instead of it being hung was huge. I can't tell you how big that is because that means that the government can't even retry it even if they want to. It's a big win. The lawyers involved in this are going to have this all over their CV, and for all the lawyers who did different parts of this trial, big win. So after Diddy won big, basically he was still being held on the Mann Act. And so they were hoping to post bail for him before sentencing. Sentencing is when they determine how long he's going to spend in jail. He will be credited for the time he's already been spending in jail. So they go to get him bail and the judge denies it. They have a big back and forth between the lawyers. And the judge says, listen, based off of your own closing testimony, he has a violent history. You've used that as an argument for why you got him off. Judge, I've read the party submissions and the others. The jury convicted the defendant on counts 3 and 5 for the following reasons bail is denied. Even if the defendant was solely required to show that he is not a danger to the community, he could not meet that burden. Prior to trial, the court denied bail and sees no reason to reverse that now. The defense conceded the defense violence. His violence is depicted in the video of Cassie Ventura. The defense admitted that this is a terrible moment of domestic battery is the issue, is what she said. It wasn't only that. There was the London hotel incident. There was violence after the searches in this case. So after they'd already been starting the federal process and he knew he was going to be searched and go after, there was still violence again. So he's trying to say there's a history of violence. As to Jane, there was June 2024. After the searches of Combs' residence, this evidence is a disregard for the law and a propensity for violence. And then they also discuss like what sentencing should be in general. And Agnifilo, who is Combs' lawyer, he goes on to say, oh, my client, Your Honor, should only spend 21 months based off of the sentencing guideline. He's already done 10 months in jail. The prosecutor says, fuck that. If I'm John Johnson, I'm offering P. Diddy all the supply he wants. If I'm Diddy, the moment I get out, I'm going home and I'm freaking off. I'm telling my kids, go to bed, tuck yourself in.
Johnson & Johnson. So slippery, you escape the law.
The judge has a lot of discretion in regards to how they like to do things. And actually, I think this is also part of why federal court works this way. They give themselves a lot of leeway to be able to find you guilty on a lot of stuff so that even if things fall through, they're going to make sure you're going to spend some time in jail. Now, I can tell that this is not what they were expecting as a response from the judge and the court itself, but let's just look through it. The court take no position on what it will consider at sentencing, nor what sentence it will impose. But here, the burden is on him. He cannot carry it. The defense argues that the guidelines start at 21 months. The state says 51 months. That's the minimum. That's 4 years. He'd done 10 months. I set sentencing for Friday, October 3 at 10 a.m. That means that he's to be remanded in jail for that period. Unless Combs Agnifilo comes back, he says, we would like it expedited, Judge. We will need an expedited pre-sentencing report from probation, but I will be available anytime. There is a great divide on the sentencing guidelines. I see that Ms. Comey has her statute book open. The state's attorney says, the rule required preparation of a report absent a reasoned waiver. Probation may be able to expedite it. Judge, update me by July 8 at noon. And we'll hold a hearing on afternoon of July 8. Combs Agnifilo, Your Honor, has a lot of information from presiding over the trial. We want sentencing as soon as possible. Other Mann Act cases, there's nothing remotely similar to this. The cases we reviewed involve defendants making money, millions, or involving minors. Judge, you conceded violence in your closing. Whether that's relevant to the sentencing is not for today, but it can be considered on bail application. His children are here. His 2 daughters. They're in the middle of the second row. They no longer have a living mother. Here, the user of prostitution services has been convicted under the Mann Act. He was acquitted of violence for trafficking. At Combs, we could craft conditions. Would the court be open to us putting together a bail package? The judge, the bail application is denied. We'll receive his...
Stop talking about motherfucking bail.
Yeah.
Okay, it's denied.
When we first started the set of videos, we said Diddy's going to be going to jail. The question is just how long. And it still seems to be the case. Even from his own defense attorneys, it sounds like he's going to at least do a year in jail. From what they think and what the state's saying is like, yeah, the state's saying give this motherfucker 20 years.
It's just,
but they say it starts at 51.
But it's 51 months. But it's not, yeah. He's going to jail, but it's not as much as I thought it would be.
There's a clip I saw from these 2 lawyers discussing the sentencing portion. And she said something I thought was interesting in regards to how judges may decide to give people their sentences.
And what they'll do is they'll create a sentencing guideline. They'll give a range of months that they believe the judge should follow in one way, shape, or form as to what Sean Combs should be facing. Now, both sides have already kind of done their calculations. The defense believes that he should get anywhere from 21 to 27 months. The government believes anywhere from 51 to 63 months. And if you're as bad at math as I am, that's basically the government saying 4 to 5 years, and the defense saying just shy of 2 years or so. Or smartest thing that they will do is they'll say, these aren't just 2 transfer stations to engage in prostitution. Here are the 27 escorts. Here are the the 2 alleged victims, and here are all the flights. There are dozens of them, and they'll try to use that as aggravating, and they'll also use the violence as aggravation as well.
When it comes to a federal sentence, the judge can take into account bad acts, meaning incidents that you have engaged in that you may have not been arrested for, you may not have been convicted of, but does show your propensity and the type of person you are. This judge is going to try to get the sentence that reflects, 1, deterrence, sending a message to the public that this type of behavior will not be stand for. In terms of rehabilitation, what is the best sentence that will rehabilitate Sean Combs so that way when he is ultimately released, he wouldn't be committing these same acts? Punishment. Punishment, punishment. How do you punish a person for the acts that they've committed? So wise transportation to engage in prostitution is not just 2 acts, but we're talking about dozens and dozens of you transporting these commercial workers for the purposes of sex.
I would say he doesn't have a criminal record, but he does have a criminal history.
Yes.
And that difference is going to be big for him.
Really interesting, right? I've actually liked these two because they're very, they were on different ends. He was really representing the defense, her, but they were often butt heads. But it was really interesting to listen to in terms of the process. I'll say this. The judge thought the trial, he would object, he would sustain objections, he would overrule pretty evenly on both ends. You know, judges have a lot of leeway. That's just the reality of the way the court system works. So if he wants to give this guy 6 or 7 years, he probably has justification to do so. I'm sure they're going to appeal it. I'm sure they're going to fight it. But, you know, the government's like, we not losing cleanly.
I don't think it's over for Diddy. And after all this is behind him, I think there's going to be more things that's going to come his way. This guy is going to be scrutinized. People are going to look into more and more things, and more things are going to come out.
I mean, he's already got a bunch of lawsuits.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's people clawing away at the money that he has. He's already had to pay out a bunch of people. I'm sure he's going to try to fight as much of it as he can.
100%. But, like, yeah, I think there's going to be much more serious stuff for other things that are going to come out in the future.
Right.
It's not after this case is done, it's not the last time that we're going to hear about them.
Yeah.
He's going to go back in the media, the main light. There's going to be some other things. There's going to be some other weird stuff that's going to come out. That's for sure.
We did a video, I think, a couple days ago, giving our predictions. You said he was guilty on all counts. How you feeling?
I lost. Sometimes, you know, you lose. Sometimes you win.
That's it.
There's a trafficking. There's a prostitution. It's a wrap.
So you think those
It's a wrap.
all 5?
Landslide.
Oh, landslide?
Well, your thing didn't go as you planned as well. What did you predict again?
I said he was going to be guilty on the sleeping with the prostitutes, to which he was. I said he was going to be found. I think it's very possible that I think they're probably going to get a not guilty on the Jane trafficking. I don't think that's going to go through. The defense just kind of made her seem very much of a liar and unreliable, and it didn't seem very clear cut. Not guilty on Jane. I said it was going to be, I think they could have a hung jury also on the RICO. I think it's possible.
Then hung on the RICO?
It was hung on the RICO.
Then they said go back.
And then they said go back. So they kept deliberating. Then they had to come back the next day.
And say no.
And then basically what they just came to at the end was then they're not guilty. And then I said I thought it was going to be potentially hung on the Cassie thing and turned out to be not guilty, which is probably the one I was most wrong on. But that was good.
That's crazy. That's
a really good win for Diddy. For a lot of people who are shocked and surprised, the first half of the trial went really well for the prosecution. The second half was a fucking disaster. But it was actually really fascinating because they start off really strong, and then they had 3 back-to-back witnesses, and like one of them was a drug addict who's like didn't remember her dates, so she was made to look like a fool. Then the other one was his assistant who worked for Combs, and then she was made to look very inconsistent in regards to certain statements. And then lastly was Jane. And I personally don't know why the government did this. And that's why I said not guilty on Jane. I didn't even question that. I was like, there's no way that they're going to find him guilty of trafficking.
Jane was a bit messy.
50 Cent's baby mama. Because like everything involved with her was just too convoluted, and it didn't even look like trafficking for the most part. You know what this is like? It's like when you're trying to sell people on something, and then you keep talking, and then you sell them out of it. Like you already had them in the first half.
And then you ran your mouth.
You just did too much, and then you made it very muddy.
Yeah.
And then obviously one thing I thought the defense did was brilliant. It's like, we're not going to call any witnesses. We're going to end because we feel that's how much he's not guilty. This put everyone in a state of shock or surprise.
That was a power move.
The prosecution just didn't end on a very strong note. So it's like a movie. If the first half is good and then everything afterwards, we're only going to really remember the second half. You understand what I'm saying? So
everybody remembers the ending.
Yeah.
If you talk about Game of Thrones, remember Game of Thrones? Everybody was like, yo. What we remember is the last season.
Yeah, nobody talked about Game of Thrones.
It's like, ugh.
Yeah.
No bother.
Yeah, why did you feel so comfortable that he was going to be guilty? I thought it was wild when you said that shit.
Yeah, I just wanted to be wild.
Okay.
He could be wild and have no repercussion. Why can't I be? I can't be wild?
Yeah.
He could do baby oil. I cannot be like guilty. Guilty is wild.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it was wild.
It was.
It was.
But yeah, you don't think about that, but I really understand more. Like, all this woman and all the victim went through all that for that result. I can understand how other victim be like, no, I'll let it slide.
I think a lot of people might feel devastated because they feel as though for victims of crimes and stuff like that, that this might be another black eye in regards to them. But
Oh my God.
I think this wasn't a matter of like, oh, this is a stain against women or whatever. This was just prosecution not putting on a good case. And part of it was they didn't prep some of their witnesses, which I think was disgusting. Like, how did you not prep your three last most important witnesses? Crazy.
They thought they really
on
banged
cross-examination, these people looked fucking goofy.
They just banged everything on Cassie.
Yeah. And that's why I was saying, like, constantly, like, yo, listen, the defense is doing a great job on cross-examination with some of these people. And then as the thing kind of progressed and they ended on Jane, I was waiting for the smoking gun on Jane the whole time. And I was like, that's it? There's no way he's going to be found guilty. 50 Cent's baby mama got to be looking crazy right now. Bruh, they probably going to be on her ass forever. And a bunch of niggas now know she's okay with being peed on, so her DMs must be different. No, Jane was goofy. Her trafficking target
Jane,
was goofy.
You want me to make you look like Abba's wig right now?
Yeah, I can't tell you how bad it is in regards to. Imagine for future prosecutions. You know, the prosecution often relies on the fact that they have such a good track record for getting people to settle, for getting people to take plea deals. And now everyone's going to see this case that just unfolded and how much the prosecution took an L. And what they're going to say is this State Department, the way that these lawyers unfold with their investigations are vulnerable. I should fight this in court. It is costing them well beyond just the loss in this court for future cases as well. It's going to embolden a lot of people who may or may not be guilty to not plead. And some people might say that's a good thing. I agree. I think it is a good thing that less people are going to plead and they're going to see their day in court. However, I don't think the state thinks it's a good thing.
No, it's not.
And that's why it's a big L for them. Their business, the state's business of being, you know, the guys who catch criminals is going to be made much harder because of this investigation.
So what is it, 3 L's this year? You had Young Thug?
Young Thug is state. That has nothing to do with state versus federal court.
Same thing with YM and
YNW Melly is also state. That's in Florida.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. That's a different blocking. That's why that shit's televised. But anyways,
well, 3 court L's this year.
But it was really interesting to watch. I wish it would have been televised. That's my only wish on this case.
Is he going to be making music?
When's the last time you heard a Diddy track? Anyways, ain't nobody trying to listen to that motherfucker.
He's going to take a remix. I'm free.
Yeah. Apparently they had a choir sitting outside being ready to sing.
What the hell? What the hell? What the hell?
And then you just got Diddy's son doing that lame ass Harlem Shake he be trying to fucking.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, bro, stop doing that. You can't dance. I think people are realizing now how America functions and some of the many laws they didn't even know was on the books. So many people didn't even know it was illegal to fly prostitutes across state lines to bang. They didn't even know, which is so interesting because that's archaic. Like so many of us live in other countries where it's like, we don't care. You know, it's like prostitution, who gives a f? America is a really weird place because they have so much sex everywhere. Yeah. There's so much like OnlyFans and escorting and all this other stuff, but they're not aware, at least a lot of people are not, that shit's illegal and they will put you in jail. There's still like streetwalkers, for example, who go out and they get put in jail. People who grab like Johns who go and pick up hookers, they go to jail. People are going to say like, this is not justice. This is not how things should work. If you lost the case, you should let this go. But he was found guilty on those charges. And I know people say the big win is absolutely, but they're going to use whatever they can to get a win. And as fucked up as it is, you know how many times I've seen stuff from prosecutors that don't really have to do with the law, but it's them gaming the system to be able to get a defendant to be guilty. Someone actually told me this recently, but they would say like when they were on jury duty and they were like the only black person on the jury duty, and the defendants were there waiting for sentencing, waiting for the verdict. So the prosecutor walks the defendants by the jury room with the door open. When they see all the white folks there with the one black dude, they start getting nervous waiting for the verdict as they're like sweating balls. And maybe 3 hours later, somebody comes into the jury room and says, they took a plea deal. Yeah, because they thought like, look at me. These white folks gonna cook my ass. So they just took a plea. They used that to use pressure. And he was told that afterwards by, I think, one of the lawyers. Like that's a thing that they do sometimes to pressure them to take pleas. There's a lot of stuff like that. They will tackle on dozens of charges to make it like scary as pot. You're facing death, so they want you to take a plea. So you take a plea. They'll do a lot of different things to make sure that they get a win in their books as much as possible. That's why she's saying 20 years. She's going above and beyond because she's hoping the judge comes. Because if Diddy goes to jail for 5 to 7 years, how old is he? Almost 60?
60.
For him, that's going to be hard. At his age, the way he's lived his life as being the king, to sit in a jail cell for 7 years and fed.
Yeah, I understand.
And they don't have get released on good behavior or whatever. The most you can do on a federal sentence is 15% of it. You can get it shaved off if you're fortunate, and that's not very likely.
And it's federal prison.
Right. So people will say this is a miscarriage of justice in regards to what they may be able to still do to sending him in prison. But yes, I would probably agree with that. I don't think it's the right thing. But that is the standard in America. That's how it's kind of always functioned. Imagine being Diddy. You find out you get off on the most serious charges. Your lawyers tell you to chill out. And then the judge comes back like a month or two later, 5 years in prison. Woo!
Oh,
He probably not going to take that shit easy.
Take that.
Because you can tell he was hoping to walk home right now to be with his family.
Yeah, because he said to his family, we got this. But no. Even imagine if the judge is like, no, let me be spicy.
Facts.
Let me be spicy. Yeah. And he comes back and like, oh, you want to expedite it? Perfect. So that means that less months are going to be credited to your sentence. Perfect. Cool. 7.
All the people like, yo, Abba, you guys are wrong. Yeah, so?
Well, what?
You're wrong.
Wrong about
You
what?
are fucking wrong. You said guilty on all counts. Fuck you.
Okay, but it doesn't matter if
Diddy. W Diddy.
It doesn't matter.
Free Diddy.
It doesn't matter if I'm
free him.
wrong.
I'm about to rub baby oil all over you, nigga. Me and Diddy.
Start with my nipples, nigga. It doesn't matter if we're right or wrong. It does not matter.
I know you guys might feel differently. It doesn't matter what I think or what Preach thinks. The 12 jurors is all that matters.
Or right or wrong.
I love it. I love it when y'all get in my comments and get mad. You were fucking wrong, Abba. Thanks for the ad.
Yeah, he loves it when you scramble, Eddie.
Scraping and scrambling for shit. Come on, bro. You don't know your Diddy lines? Yo,
no, I don't know.
What's wrong with you, bro?
Yeah, I love this drink.
Where you put my bag
I like when you like this, Daddy.
Yeah, where you put my bag
Daddy, I like when you
right
scrambling
here,
and scraping for shit.
No,
I like that.
You need to get on your
Diddy line.
Yeah. All good. Anyway, that's it for today's video.